Hello everybody and welcome back to the I Just Love Footy YouTube channel. Today I want to skim through some pass marks for every AFL team this season. Let's get into it. Starting off with the West Coast Eagles, I'm going to give them a pass mark of 6 wins. Now, the first thing they need to do this season is establish or re-establish a sense of standards, mitigate those big losses that just break the will of the team during that period of the season. Essentially just re-establish a winning culture. And I'd even suggest starting to build a team where you can look at players and go, yes, that's my leader. Look at Oscar Allen, look at Harley Reid, who was a captain for Vic Country in the Youth Nationals last season. Start knowing where to look when shit's hit the ceiling. I'm a big believer in the idea that winning fast tracks the progress of the youth. Since the inception of West Coast into the AFL, they've only endured one wooden spoon. And in the 29 AFL seasons they've been in, they've made finals 20 times. So to get back to that sort of winning standard is paramount for them. Next up, I've got North Melbourne also on 6 wins. This time around with Clarko, I think he's going to have more of a clean slate relative to the start he had last season and all the off-field dramas. I think we can put that behind us now and put an emphasis to the stuff that's actually happening on the park. My greatest concern for North Melbourne this season is their key backman stocks. However, they did pick up Will Dawson in the draft. He's a tall key backman who will probably have to slide into the team very early and try fast track that progress by feeding him to the Wolves, essentially. I think we'll see Sheasel feature in the midfield a lot more as well. And we need players like Callum Coleman-Jones and Charlie Comben returning from an ACL to really be a supporting cast for Nick Larkey in the forward line. No more honourable losses for North Melbourne. I think they had 2 of those against Sydney alone last season. So let's see those honourable losses turn into wins and again fast track the youth's progress by way of developing a winning culture. For Hawthorn, I think a pass mark for them would be around the 9 to 10 win mark. However, with news coming out over the last couple of days, Dylan Moore with glandular fever, CJ with recurring hamstring issues, Will Day as well with foot issues. You've basically plucked out 3 players who are arguably one of the best players in their own department. And that's why I'm probably not going to go any higher than 9 or 10 wins right now, just because of the instability and uncertainty revolving around those injury clouds. This is a team that took some big scalps last season in Collingwood, Brisbane, both grand finalists. And they beat the Dogs twice and St Kilda, who made the finals as well. I'm praying from the neutral fan that we get to see Mitchell Lewis fit and firing this season. And I think Lewis in tandem with Chol is going to make quite a handy partnership this season. Lastly, I think Sicily's hands are going to be full. He's going to have to be his best version of himself while CJ alleviates those ongoing hamstring issues. And again, I forgot to mention earlier that James Blank, one of their key defenders, did his ACL the other day as well. So more pressure added to the defensive stock. I think a reasonable pass mark for Essendon this season would be around the 11 wins mark, so not quite finals just yet. I'm interested to see how the Ben Mackay and Goldstein and Gresham move transpires. Either I feel like they're going to be praised in retrospect or seen as a bust and overpaid for Ben Mackay. I really do think it is an attainable goal to get at least 11 wins for Essendon, with Peter Wright hopefully being healthy all season, along with Darcy Parish, who had an interrupted season for the most part as well in 2023. Throw Nick Cox into that injury mix. He had quite a treacherous run as well last season. And lastly, I'm also going to keep a close eye on Ben Hobbs. I think he's going to break out this season. Now, I've got Richmond aiming for the 12 win mark. I think internally they rate themselves much higher than what the media is portraying right now. I personally don't think they're a bottom 4 side either, and that's what the media is suggesting. However, I feel like Richmond do have all that experience and talent to sort of flirt with the top 8 this season. Hopefully, Tom Lynch will return. We've got Dusty Martin, who played really well last season. We probably just need a few more games from him this season relative to what he was able to put out last season. Josh Gibcus, who had, a horrible run with hamstring issues. He's just come back from Dubai, and he's going to help fulfill that key backman role. Noah Bolter's going to be important. We've got Shai Bolton, who's always a good barometer for Richmond when looking at how they're going. So yeah, I guess I'm quite bullish about Richmond, and I think that's a pass mark that they've set internally. Maybe even higher. The Gold Coast Suns. Now for me, I think they need to be getting 12 wins top 8 is a must for them this season in my eyes, and I believe that's the precedent they're setting internally, especially with the fact that they're trying to aim for the flag within 3 years. And that's something, that's probably a standard that Dim has brought over across to Richmond. You saw their 10-year plan work out basically to a T. Not saying that's going to happen here, but I feel like that might be the pressure Gold Coast finally needs to find themselves in the top 8 at the end of the season, because they always tend to peak early and then drop off when it really matters. Now that Rao has had a full season without injury interruptions, I would really like to see him develop an outside game and be willing to drive out of contest and distribute the ball without causing too many turnovers. I think 13 wins for Fremantle would probably be the pass mark that they're setting. That would be a 3-win increase from the 2023. I'm wondering if Luke Jackson can go another level. Can Andrew Brayshaw reach the heights that he did in 2022? I'm really liking what we're seeing in this preseason and from the previous seasons in Josh Tracy and Jaya Miss. They're going to have to step up because they can't depend on Nat Fyfe and Matt Taberner with their volatility surrounding injuries. I think they're going to have great trouble trying to replace Lockie Schultz, as he was an all-round elite small forward who could tackle and kick goals and collected the ball quite a bit considerably for a small forward. So again, I'm intrigued to see how that pans out. For St Kilda, I think if they can hover around the 13 win mark like they did last season, I don't think that would be overly disappointing, considering I felt like they had an overs season thanks to a really good start in 2023 under Ross Lyon. I'd like to see Max King truly announce himself as a top 3 full forward in the league and potentially, ask the question about being in the All-Australian team this season. Even with the potential of Max King being in an All-Australian this year factored in, I just don't know if their list currently screams out top 6 to me. For Geelong, 13 to 14 wins could be a pass mark that would be reasonable for all parties involved. I feel like their season was curtailed by injuries intertwined with a potential premiership hangover. I want to see if Oliver Henry can build on his quiet 40-goal season that he had last year. I'm wondering if Max Holmes and Tanner Bruhn can take enough load in midfield. Does that give the coaching panel a bit more autonomy with the magnets of Patrick Dangerfield and Cam Guthrie to move them around the ground as they please? Next up, we've got Adelaide. 13 wins, which I think would get them top 6 this season. I think the difference between them making the top 6 last season and not was some painfully close games. So just flipping that script this season would find them where they should have been already last season. Does Taylor Walker keep continuing to age like fine wine? And what do we see from Fogarty? Do we get another really good positive year from him? And does Thilthorpe take his game to the next level like we had hoped it would have? The pass mark that I would personally set for the Western Bulldogs would be 14 wins, and that would subsequently have them flirting with the top 4. I'm wondering if Jamaro Ugle-Hagan can continue to grow and build on his outstanding season last year. Liam Jones needs to remain in that picture, remaining healthy and performing. Where does Sam Darcy stand amongst it all? Buku Kamas's move back, I think, will be really conducive to, again, just tightening up the bolts in the back line, because that's been their issue the last few seasons. I feel like they've been real vulnerable in the back line. It would be reasonable for Bulldogs fans to be quite optimistic about their season this year. And if things don't quite pan out, maybe it's time to move on from Luke Beveridge and get a different, a fresh voice in the frame of the Western Bulldogs. Next up, we've got the Sydney Swans. I'm really keen to see how Brodie Grundy and Taylor Adams change the landscape in the middle of the ground for them. When they're at their peak of their powers, they're both contested bulls and clearance kings. I simply think Errol backs it up with another great year. James Rowbottom, again, another great young player who's continuing to push himself as a big name in the league. Can he develop more of an outside game? My ultimate concern for them, again, is key backstocks. And I seem to say that a lot about a lot of teams, but yeah, that's perhaps a reality for most teams is finding a really solid backline to propel them into the top 4 and have a crack at the premiership. I'm hoping Tom McCartan can be healthy on the field for them for the most part of the season, and then find some moving parts to build that around him. And also James Jordan from Melbourne moving to Sydney. Does he get a more fulfilling role and does he thrive with that opportunity presented to him? Next up, we've got GWS. I think a fair pass mark for them would be around the 14 win mark, really hovering within that those top four spots. I think when you have a season like you did, albeit maybe an overperforming season in my opinion. However, finishing in the prelim now, they're going to have to wear the brunt of the expectation to now back that up. I'm looking forward to keeping a close eye on Aaron Cadman. Can Brent Daniels and Jesse Hogan continue to be a really good support for Toby Green? And I think Finn Callaghan and Tom Green will have a more prominent role taking over the midfield in lieu of the Cornelio, in lieu of Cornelio and Josh Kelly. Albeit Tom Green pretty much already doing that. More so, I'm more so referring to Finn Callaghan. For Carlton, I think grand final would be a pass mark. Anything short of that would be a disappointment for the fans and the club, considering all the heartache they've gone through over the last 10, 20 years, I guess. They've got Sam Walsh fit and firing, getting through the preseason just fine. Zach Williams adds stability to the defense. Carlton probably need Lewis Young and Marchbank to do a job during the early absence of Jacob Wiedering. And Harry Mackay must find a way to stay active and be the right-hand man to Charlie Curnow. For Port Adelaide, I think a prelim final would be a pass for them. I'm really excited to see all the youngsters in their team thrive. We're looking at players like Georgiades, who is returning from an ACL, Rosie, Butters, Horn Francis. We've got Zerk Thatcher, who's come over from Essendon, so maybe he pairs up with Leah and creates a solid defense. Again, that was a bit of a weak point for them last season. I think Melbourne will be hoping they are able to get through to a grand final after back-to-back straight sets final exits. I think Harrison Petty, if uninjured, has potential to break out and have a 60-goal season. Gawn will find himself comfortable again as the sole ruckman. Can Clayton Oliver get back on track? And speaking of track, Christian Petrarca speaks about the importance of rebuilding the togetherness and the bonding that is needed when you are up against it in must-win games like finals. Down to the last two, we've got Collingwood. I think grand final would be another pass mark. Now, again, even with Carlton, I know I say pass mark for a grand final, but if you make the grand final, ultimately you want to win a premiership. However, in retrospect, just making those grand finals is an amazing effort within itself. I'd like to see Collingwood settle on an established forward line. Can we find room for Ash Johnson and Kruger to feature along Brody Myercheck? Like to see Billy Frampton develop an intercept marking game more than he has previously. Does Charlie Dean, a VFL standout, solidify his spot? Can Billy Frampton and Charlie Dean support Darcy Moore? I always feel like Darcy Moore is in the trenches when he's in his games and he wears his harden on his sleeve. I'm just mindful that may burn out at a certain point. The only team where I think a premiership is a must this season, it's for the Brisbane Lions. I think the last 5 seasons is just too much heartbreak. Is it a little bit too much? Is it the straw that finally breaks the camel's back? We saw GWS go through a similar phase a few years back, preliminary finals, and then that culminated in a horrible grand final for them against Richmond, and then didn't make finals for the next couple of seasons. Were underperforming with the list they had. And that ties into the fact that Brisbane's list is in a great place. The thing is, sometimes great lists are outweighed by the traumas of the past, poor mindsets, losing that will to persevere and endure the long, arduous season that the AFL presents to all these clubs. Thanks for sticking around, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of controversy around those, but again, this is an open discussion. I'm not saying any of these are absolutes. This is just my opinion. Please share your opinion in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.